Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Freyja and welcome back to another Locked Up with the DiGiCo. So macros, we all know how useful they are. I use them on every show I do. I have one for aux to faders, for snapshot updates, and for file saving. When I work on Master, I rely on them mainly for muting and unmuting mixes and talkback mics. So to give you guys more of an insight, most of our band members have their own talkback mics. We also have one stage right for our backline tech Carl, one at front of house for our engineer Luigi, and two stage left, one for myself and one for our production manager and playback engineer AJ. Here he is with his fancy headset talkback mic, which is actually genius because then he has both hands free for working. AJ and I work together to make sure the show runs smoothly with all 8 talkback mics. During the show, I will have all talkbacks in my PFL mix, which I run off of a solo bus and through a matrix. But I will use the macros for everyone else's mixes. For example, a band member's mix has all the talkbacks routed to it, but they'll only be able to hear them when they're needed and when I unmute them using a macro. If the techs need to talk to a band member, they can either ask me to press the relevant macro button, or if I'm busy with something else, AJ can press it himself. Also, we occasionally have several guest vocalists involved in the show, and we like to do a final IAM check before they go on stage. So there's also a macro shortcut from my mic and AJ's mic to the guest ears mix. So this is where we work really well together. There may be times when I'm tied up with mixing or I'm just not in a position to leave what I'm doing to check the guest ears with my talkback. So on those occasions, AJ can do it with his. As long as I can hear the guest mic and PFL the guest mix before they go on, then we're all happy. So macros are super important in our show and sometimes I'm not the only one using them. I currently have about 23 different macros. Most of them are mutes, but they also include what I like to call housekeeping macros for muting all mixes, muting all mics, muting RF, saving files, aux to faders, and muting my side fills. During some smaller scale gigs, or if we're given a smaller footprint for Monitor World, I take an SD11 instead of the SD12 I normally use. Although the SD11 has the processing power of a much larger console, it only has 8 programmable macro buttons. In this situation, I have 2 options. Either cut my macros down to the 8 most used, or use an external user interface to expand the macros available. Today's video will be focusing on that second option and how to integrate an external user programmable device into your rig. This is not only useful when using a smaller console with less macro buttons, but on any size console, especially if there's more than one of you firing those macros. So our show is the perfect candidate. So I'm going to be showing you how to use one of these and one of these to expand your macro interface. So for this, you'll need the following hardware. A DiGiCo SD console of your choice. I'm going to be using the SD11i. And Elgato Stream Deck. These come in 3 different sizes, but only the standard and XL sizes are actually supported. For this, I'm going to be using the standard 15 key version. You can find these all online, and the medium version retails for around £130. A Raspberry Pi 4 Model B with at least 1 gig of RAM. The older version 3 Model B Plus does support this, but it can be a bit slower. If you're looking to go ahead and pick up one of these, you can find them online. Most places have bundles where you can get the computer, the power supply, and the SD card for around £60. A micro SD card, minimum 8 gigabytes. Micro SD card reader. Power cable for your Raspberry Pi. Standard Cat 5 cable. If you're going to be touring this as a system, you might also want to have a look into protective cases for your Raspberry Pi. Mine is a custom case from Risco's Bits, but you can pick them up all over the internet. It's also worth investing in a fan or a heatsink, as the Raspberry Pis can get really hot. You will also need a Mac or a PC. Next, we'll have a look at the software we'll need. First is MacroStream SD by Frostbox Labs. You can find this on their website, which is labs.frostbox.net. Scroll down until you find the MacroStream SD option. This brings you to the MacroStream SD overview page, where you can find all the information you need on buying and downloading the MacroStream SD software. It also has information on all the hardware you'll need and links to buy it online. You can download the PDF user guide for more information, or go straight ahead to purchase your software by entering your Stream Deck serial number, which you'll find on the back of the unit. The software itself retails for $49.99, or currently about £38.
Once you've purchased the software, you'll receive a confirmation email with a software download link and user guide. This will also have a license pin which you'll need for later on. The PDF user guide also has really useful step-by-step instructions. Click the link in your email to begin downloading your MacroStream SD software. While your software is downloading, find and download the Etcher program. Once your software has downloaded, unzip the file. Plug your SD card into your computer using your SD card converter and flash your software onto your SD card using the Etcher program. Eject the SD card from your computer and put it into your Raspberry Pi. Connecting your console. First, switch on your console. Next, power up your Raspberry Pi. These LEDs will light up when it has power. Plug in your Cat5 cable to your Raspberry Pi. And plug the other end into your console. It's really important that you plug into the port labelled Network and not the Waves port. The status LEDs will flash when the devices are connected. Take your Stream Deck and plug in the USB to the Raspberry Pi. The Stream Deck will then auto-boot. You should have a status icon in the lower right hand corner of the Stream Deck showing the connection status. It also shows you which macro page you are currently on, A or B. Holding down the status button for 2 seconds will bring up the configuration page. Here you can find and enter all the information you'll need to connect your devices. Local IP address for the Stream Deck, local subnet mask, port send and receive values, and the IP address of the console. You will also need your license pin from your confirmation email to enable the software. There is an option to change the brightness of the Stream Deck LCDs and also an icon displaying the current version of the software. You can change the value of all the settings by using the plus and minus icons at the bottom and then pressing apply. It's important that you set and remember these settings correctly, as you'll need to duplicate them in the console itself to enable a connection. You can use the Stream Deck in conjunction with a router to connect multiple mirrored devices, but for this I'm just using it as a standalone device. Once you are happy that you have all the correct settings, hit apply and the Stream Deck will reboot. If you need to change the IP address of the console, you'll need to do this via the Quit to Windows option. To do this, go to System, Quit to Windows, and Confirm. Make sure you've saved any changes you have made before doing so. Using a mouse, select the Network Connections section by clicking on the Computer Network icon at the far right of the taskbar. Double-click on the Local Area Connection properties and scroll down to the Internet Protocol item. Click on this and then go to Properties. Here you can enter in the new IP address for the console. This cannot be the same as the IP address for the Stream Deck, but should ideally be close to it. For example, here my console is on 10 but my Stream Deck is on 11. It also shows you the subnet mask, which must be the same as the one on the Stream Deck. Click OK to save your changes, then boot back to the SD software by going to Start, then choosing the DiGiCo SD icon. Then go ahead and load your chosen file. Next, we need to set up the Stream Deck as an external control device for the console. To do this, go to Setup, External Control, and enter the relevant information. First, add the device. For the Stream Deck, you'll need to add it as DiGiCo pad type. Next, name your device. Then, add the IP address you have chosen for your Stream Deck, in this case 192.168.1.11. Next, enter the details for the send and return ports. It's important to remember that these will be the opposite way around to the port values you've entered into the Stream Deck, so the send and receive ports on the console will be 9000 and 8000 respectively, but the values on the Stream Deck will be 8000 and 9000. Next, enable the device by clicking the red cross, which should turn into a green tick. Finally, load the command set for your console and go back to the top of the menu to change the Enable External Control option from No to Yes. Check your Stream Deck to ensure the connection has been successful. The status icon should have changed from a red No Con to the name of the console you are connected to in green. Next, we need to load our macros into the Stream Deck. First, bring up your macro menu. Next, go to Editor mode and click on any macro to begin. This macro is currently assigned to button 1 on the console, so I'm going to reassign it to the Stream Deck like so. Click on OSC to assign the macro to the Stream Deck. Since the majority of my macros are mute, I need to be sure to assign both the on and off function to the same key if I want to use it as a toggle. Then choose the channel number. This corresponds to the key it will be assigned to on the Stream Deck. You can change the channel number by using the arrow buttons or click in the value box and use the numeric keypad. With the 15 key version, we actually have 28 different keys to choose from since there are 2 pages of 14 available keys. Much like some of the larger consoles in the SD range, we can also change the colour of the macro keys on the Stream Deck to indicate that a change has been made. I usually opt for green indicating your mute is off and red indicating your mute is on, and the Macro Stream SD guide has a code chart for changing the colours using a / and a letter to dictate the colour. In this instance, green is /G and red is /R. You can also format the macro text to show up on up to 3 lines on each key so that the commands are easier to read. If you have pre-made macros and want to use the Stream Deck to control them, you will need to go through and reassign, reformat and colour code them if you wish. I set up my Stream Deck so that I have page 1 and AJ has page 2. Mine are mainly red-green mute controls in the first 2 rows, with housekeeping macros on the 3rd row. I have customised them so that they're easy to navigate during a show and also use specific colours so that AJ and I know whose page is whose. AJ's mute controls are all purple since that's his favourite colour. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Looked At with the DiGiCo. I hope this video has been interesting. Please let me know if you decide to try the Macro Stream SD software for yourself. Take care and see you on the next one.